Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the Nexus 6, but just a heads up, this review will definitely be a little bit different because I thought I'm already so late to the game, and if you can't do it better, just do it different. And that's what this approach is going to be, because I will call this something like a director's cut review or a live review, because I won't do any cuts and I think it will be longer therefore, but I will still try to give you everything. And if you saw, I already did kind of my script, what I was planning to do, but I threw that over because when I was still charging the device, I just thought I wasn't so happy with the recent reviews in doing them because I need way over 100 takes to get it done. And I thought it would be fun to make kind of a live review, and if something worse happens or something bad happens, it happens. So let's start with the review of the Nexus 6, and as always with the design and build quality. So here we have the device with 6 inches, it's 5.96, but still, let's just do a quick comparison with a few other devices first. Here we have the Sony Xperia Z3. As you can see, it's not even that much of a difference. Here, for example, the Moto X. My camera has a little bit of trouble focusing because of the black, and I don't know what I'm shaking with my left hand, but yeah, that's the Moto G. And as the last one, oh, not the last one, the Moto E. Let's make the last one an 8-inch device, just so you can see a comparison with an 8-inch tablet. So there is still quite a difference here. Otherwise, if we check the device, it is very nice. It is very rounded. I really like it a lot. The buttons itself, I really love this texture on the power button. The position is okay, but I would wish for these two to be switched out because this felt more natural to me. But it was still way better than on the Moto X for some reason. So this is okay. Also, clicky feedback, all that is fine. The chassis, the steel chassis, the aluminum, I don't even know what it is, but I guess it's a metal chassis, is very sturdy. Makes the device feel very premium. And the good thing here is, as you can see here, it is 10.5 millimeters thick. But due to this nice curve, it lies very nice in the hand and actually feels way thinner because you mostly feel this here. So this is done very well, but also maybe I lost a little bit of battery size in there. But otherwise, all very curved, very nice. So it lies very smooth in the hand, and this is really nice. The back itself, as you can see, does attract a lot of fingerprints. So that's not maybe, I don't really care about fingerprints on the back, but what I care about is grip. With moist hands like I have now, it is very grippy and I have no issues using it. Even with one hand use, it's all fine. But if I have dry hands, this can be quite slippery. As for the size itself, I can't reach everything that well, but it actually works quite better than I thought the first time I had it in the hand. It is manageable. It is definitely not that bad. On the top we have the headphone jack, SIM card tray. On the back we have the camera with the flash, the dimple, the Nexus logo. And down below here we have this. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the design. It feels great in the hand. Of course it is big, there's no denying that. But the weight with 180 grams, 83 grams isn't definitely bad at all. But I really like the design. Some people are complaining about the Nexus letters falling off. I can't see anything of that yet. But the build is extremely well made. And the feel in hand, despite being so thick, is actually quite good. So we covered design and build. I'm really happy with the design and build. It's a little bit too big for me personally, but it's okay. Let's get and check the display right now. And let me quickly check it. Okay. Okay. 5.96 inch display with 2560 by 1440 resolution. So is it good? Yes, it is very sharp, as you can see here. But if the difference is really that obvious compared to 1080p, it is obviously, if you check some certain things on videos and so, you will notice difference, but I don't think it's worth the trade-off. As for the maximum brightness, for a few people this isn't dim enough. I personally don't know because I don't have a problem. I'm absolutely fine with the brightness. The lowest brightness is something I don't use because I'm always at 50% pretty much. Now at 100% for the video. The whites itself, as you can see here, they look, for some reason on my camera, they look very red, but in reality they are quite yellow. Not yellow enough and not that bad as on the Moto X, but still some people just don't like AMOLED yellow whites. But I got used to it quite okay. One thing that was quite off, because I won't be able to show this on the camera, but if you're looking straight toward it, it looks yellow. But once you go and you actually see this, once you go a little bit off axis, it gets way colder, and that is that is actually exactly the white I would like to see. But sadly, once you are looking straight again, it's not that thing. The blacks, AMOLED black, absolutely amazing. Nothing else to say here. It looks great in videos, in photos. You have great contrast levels. Nothing gets lost in the details. The colors, okay, yes, they are overblown. They are oversaturated and they are a little bit not so much true to life. But on a phone, I couldn't care less, and I actually prefer this punch and pop, because on a phone I want to have vibrance. Of course, here maybe you can see it does wash out a little bit. It does oversaturate, but I'm completely fine with that. So the colors are something I actually really like on this device, but that's pretty much on every AMOLED device. Viewing angles, absolutely stable. On very, very extreme angles, you will see some rainbow effect, but these are angles you won't really use the device, so don't care about that. So all I have to say is, and let me hold it right, the display itself is very great, but it is not on a Note 4 level. There's still a little bit off, but otherwise, if the whites would be a little bit better, then I would be super happy. But keep one thing in mind, it is a Nexus device. So you can just flash a custom kernel with color correction options and adjust it to your liking, and you should be able to fix this actually to a quite good white, and then I would be happy. And that's one thing I really like about Nexus devices. So the next thing I want to check now is the sound. Let's start it, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. Okay, should be good enough. My thoughts on the sound, very, very happy. First of all, it is the loudest device I've ever heard so far. With the stereo speakers on the front, okay, you saw it did sound muffled when I blocked it, but you will never block the speakers because you have them usually like this, and you can even reflect it a little bit, and that is great. I'm absolutely happy because it is really loud, not super rich. There is a little bit of bass, so in terms of the sound experience, it's absolutely fine. It doesn't maybe sound as good as maybe boom sound, but since it is a little bit louder than boom sound, it actually is my first choice for a speaker on a phone. It trumps pretty much everything, and it even can compare to some of the smaller tablets. So sound, absolutely great. I love it loud, and it's not like the sound is bad. The sound in overall is still great. It sounds a little bit shallow, something far off, but as a whole, still amazing. The next thing to talk about would be performance. Let me quickly start with this Twitter app, as I always do. So, in terms of performance, as you can see here, wow, yes. This is extremely smooth. This is really extremely smooth. If you go here into this, as you can see here, buttery smooth. And this is, I have to say, this is the most consistent smooth device I've ever seen. And even, for example, Google Plus, which usually is a little bit of a performance issue, you can see how well this actually does. This is the best Google Plus experience I ever had with quite some distance. As you can see here, also the browser, absolutely great. App launch times, as you can see, pretty much instantly. Also, as you can see here, multitasking works absolutely fine. One thing I noticed though, my gestures I use, and that is actually for the display part. As you can see here, I use bezel gestures, which usually 1%. If I go into the app right now, with 1% of bezel gesture. As you can see here, give me a second. Here are the bezels. Usually I have 1%, but on this device I had to use 2%, because if I had only 1%, it was very hard to get it activated. So I had to use 2%. It's not really an issue, but you have to get used to swiping a little bit towards more on the screen than on the bezel. Maybe because the bezel is also a little bit bigger than on other devices, but this is just a minor thing. But if you use a lot of bezel gestures, just keep that in mind. But as for the performance, super happy. It is not the snappiest device. The Sony Xperia Z3 feels a little bit more snappy, but therefore it is not as consistently smooth. It feels like it has like 5 frames less or so. But the gaming performance is something, as we can see here, I am not that happy, because I tried a few games and it just isn't on the level I am used to, because as you can see here, there is quite some slowdown visible. As you can see here, it looks okay, but that is not flagship level in my experience. I've definitely seen games already a lot smoother, and this is pretty much the experience I had on all the games. Asphalt worked a little bit better, but still had these slowdowns. Riptide, it was also very obvious. So that's just real quick to show off. The gaming performance for some reason doesn't work so well, and I'm using already 5.1, and everything else in terms of performance is amazing. And I would say, as a whole, despite a little bit less snappy feel compared to the Z3, and that is still the most snappy device because maybe just some latency thing, but this is the most consistent, smooth device, super fast, and all the encryption issues they had maybe at the start with some delay I noticed on devices, I didn't see anything of that on 5.1, and we also from Franco Kernel, from the guy, he explained why on 5.1 it is so fast, so I'm absolutely happy with that. So performance, wow, but just not for games. For games, I don't know, maybe if you use custom ROMs or so, you can fix that, or maybe it's just on my device, but I freshly installed the games and I've played with it, and it's definitely no thermal throttling because the device definitely isn't even warm, and it didn't ever get really that much warm, so that's fine. Now I want to get to the battery life. Charging times first, and I will just look at it quick. Half an hour gets you to about 45%, 1 hour to 80%, and 1 hour and 35, and you are at 100% with quick charging 2.0. That's a good value. Battery life itself for me wasn't really disappointing. It was disappointing if you're coming from the Z3, but if you come from any Nexus device, you will be used to not having the best battery life. But I got through a day, but I also have to say I got through a day now. With my normal use right now, I got like 3.5 hours of screen on time over like 20 hours. Standby drain on Wi-Fi was a bit odd because there was quite a lot of standby drain. I'm not so sure. I had this with all of my Nexus devices so far, so it seems to be some kind of stock Android issue. Yeah, but as for the battery life, like I said, now I get through one day with 3.5 hours of screen on time. But like for example, half a year ago, I wouldn't have made it, because then I had screen on times like over 4 hours, but it toned quite a lot down. And back then it would be very hard. Of course, you have quick charge and you can't get past that, but I'm just someone who can always charge but doesn't want to charge always. So the battery life is acceptable, but it is not great. And I saw people with 5 hours of screen on time, and maybe with a custom kernel you can get that, but for people who wanted to use it stock as it is, I didn't manage. So let's take a look now at the software, and I don't really want to talk too much about it because it is stock Android after all. As you can see here, we are running already 5.1, and we don't really get a lot anything because it is stock Android. It is pretty much the most bare bones system of them all. We have the home, we have the display options, we have adaptive brightness, we have ambient display, which I personally don't like so much. It is, I don't know, it turns off way too often when I don't want it to, but it's okay. Otherwise, yeah, it is stock Android. Don't really know what else to tell you. It runs solid. I didn't have any memory leak issues or anything like that. It was stable. It was doing a good job for what stock does. For me personally, stock is a little bit too limited, but I know a lot of people like it, and I definitely prefer it over an overbloated system like maybe TouchWiz isn't even that bad anymore. But as for the XDA qualities, and this is pretty much the best device for it. If you want a lot of custom ROMs, a lot of custom kernels and all that, you practically have to get the Nexus or maybe a OnePlus, but this still is the benchmark. If you go on XDA, you can choose whatever custom ROM you want to, and that is still the best thing out there. Next thing, recap, just real quick because I'm not even sure how long the video is for the minute, so I will try to make it quick now. Actually, it's shorter than I thought. Build quality and design, everything great, no problems here at all, fine, like it a lot. It is still big, but as for what it is, they have done an excellent job. Display, absolutely satisfying, no problems. It is a little bit on the more yellow white side, and it is just not as great and maybe not so power efficient as the Note 4 display, but still top. Sound, the best. For me, this is the best smartphone sound, even though it's also already a phablet, but who cares. Performance, also the best. Yeah. Software, very good, but for me actually stock Android isn't enough. But it is a Nexus, so I would flash a custom ROM anyways, and I would enjoy the custom ROM features. So software and XDA qualities make it the best software experience. Battery life wasn't that good, but also not that bad that I would see it as a deal breaker. For me, it's the size. And that's something for personal preference. You can like it or you can't like it, but I just prefer this size. That is just more my thing. And what I would have wished for if there would have been maybe a 5.2-inch version of the Nexus, but with a bigger battery build. Because the Moto X is the most compact feeling 5.2-incher, but we all know about this battery life, because for now, from what I see on the testing, I've been also test all these review this device as well. The one with the even worse battery than the Nexus 6. So I wouldn't call it bad, but disappointing to what we expect, because the battery is quite big with 3220 milliamp hours, but it is just, it needs a little bit managing. So one question I want to still answer, this or the Note 4? Personally, as someone who likes it bare bones, who likes to be able to flash ROMs, and who wants a smooth, flawless experience with a nice feel in hand, I would take the Nexus. And before I'm going to tell, I forgot it once again, the camera, just real quick. It is a Nexus camera, and I actually shouldn't even talk too much about it, but I wasn't disappointed with the quality. It did catch quite a lot of details, but for me the photos some kind of seemed lifeless. There was a bit too flat, it lacked of some contrast in videos, otherwise the colors were quite fine. It just seemed a little bit dull and lifeless, that's the thing. In low light it was worse, because then a lot of noise and even less contrast, so not so amazing. On some photos as well, I tried to focus a specific thing like I did with the Nokia camera, and I couldn't focus at all. So the focus didn't work so well. On videos, the thing was, the videos itself were very smooth and also are fine and that, but the autofocus didn't work so well for me, because I sometimes couldn't focus what I wanted and sometimes I could, so it was a bit of hit and miss. But in overall, the camera, you don't buy a Nexus for the camera, you get a still good enough camera experience. That's not the thing. I like the camera still because I don't use it so much, but if I would rely a lot on the camera, and this brings me back to the Note 4 comparison. The Note 4 has the better display. It has the better camera, and it has, I don't know what it has. The better battery life, exactly, yeah. But I would still take this because of the better in-hand feel. I just like the in-hand feel. The Note for me was a little bit too boxy, but if camera is important for you and a little bit more battery life, then go for the Note. But personally, I can live with the trade-off of having the lesser battery. The display is still fine, therefore I have the great sound, and the camera is good enough. So there's, I think, something for, there is this very minimalistic, pure device with great performance, great sound, and then on the other side there's this device with lots and lots of features with the great camera, which is maybe more focused to the mainstream, but the Nexus never was focused for the mainstream. So yeah, that would be my choice, but I wouldn't personally buy it myself just for the size. If they would have made it smaller like the Moto X and use a better screen, because I'm not so happy with the Moto X screen, then I would have stayed, I guess, on the Moto X. I mean on the Nexus line. But the thing is also, I don't know what it is about Nexus and their Wi-Fi drain. But let's get to a point. In overall, I am actually super impressed with the hardware itself. I didn't expect the hardware to be that good, especially for a Nexus device. It feels premium, it feels nice in the hand, it has a good display. The qualities are all on a very high level, way higher than Nexus usually was. So if you like a phablet and if you like it bare minimum with the latest updates, the Nexus actually, okay, it is a little bit more expensive than it was before, but it is a great choice, and I'm actually quite disappointed it is a bit too big for me, because if it would have been small, I could have already again have a quite nice Nexus experience. But I'm sure pretty much everyone else will be happy with the device. You can't really do a lot wrong. If the battery life is good enough for you, if you are not a really hardcore user or you don't have the ability to charge, then it could be a problem. But otherwise, this device makes a perfect job. So this was my Director's Cut live review, as you want to call it. If you want more of these, just leave it in the comments. And if you think I was too long, which I think I was with about 20 minutes, okay, I will just skip it here. Okay, until next time, bye.